kind of kick off, I think the kind of best thing for this is obviously Kate Nash. You're wicked. There you go. Magic. Okay.
Thanks.
What's your inspirations? Like, with what made you become a musician at the end of the day? What pushed you?
I think music was always in my house. Like, as a kid, I remember my parents listening to a lot of vinyl. And we'd go on long journeys, like to... My granny lived in Newcastle, so that was like a 6-hour drive. And my mum's family was from Ireland, so we'd drive. I just remember being in the car a lot and listening to loads of music, and I still... My favourite place to listen to music is in the car, I think. It's when I can really zone out. Like, obviously, when I'm driving, I try not to zone out too much. But, yeah, and good music, like Beatles, Rolling Stones, Carole King, Janis Joplin, Cat Stevens, Harry Nilsson. Some of my favourite songs are two Harry Nilsson songs, The Puppy Song and I Can't Live If Living Is Without You. And Puff the Magic Dragon, I liked that when I was a kid. And then I got into, like, pop music when I was a kid, and we had a piano, and I started playing piano from the age of 7. I just started playing it. I was like, Mum, I want lessons, so I got lessons. And then it's like part of school, you have to write like composition or whatever. So I started writing songs. And when I wrote my first song, I just kept going with it, and just recorded on a crappy tape recorder.
You press the two buttons.
Two buttons, play and record at the same time. Yeah. There's actually one really good song that I wrote, but I don't know where that tape is.
Fair enough.
It was really weird, but all the other songs were rubbish. And then when I was 17, I got rejected from... I studied theatre for a couple of years and I wanted to act. Then I got rejected from every university and every school I wanted to go to. I broke my foot on the same day I got my last rejection letter. And I was really depressed for like 4 weeks. And my mum and dad bought me an electric guitar. And I wrote some songs that, for the first time, I really liked, because I'd got into the Buzzcocks. And it made me... Because before, I think it was kind of contrived, my music, because I was trying to be something else, because I thought you had to be like this Shakespeare of like music. But when I got into the Buzzcocks, I was like, oh, punk music, like, you can just be really simple and about mundane stuff and about things that affect all of us and about people and relationships and like love and just being a confused, bored teenager and stuff. And so after that, I started writing music that was more myself. And then I think it was that like broken foot, like all rejection. All my friends were doing more interesting things. I didn't want to end up being stupid just because I didn't go to school, and I wanted to do interesting stuff. And I think that like arts and creativity is like, shouldn't be like, oh, you can't do it because you didn't get into school. Like, everyone's supposed to be able to express themselves. And so I said, as soon as my foot is better, I'll play my first show.
So do you think that kind of rejection and stuff like that led to you to be where you are today?
Yeah, I think especially like being at home and having a broken foot and feeling really sorry for myself. It was like finally I got to a point where boredom would overcome nerves. Whereas like if I was just doing something else, or if I'd had a boyfriend, or if I had something else to occupy my mind, I probably wouldn't have been bored enough to get over the fear of doing it.
So boredom and badness ends in goodness. Every cloud has a silver lining at the end of the day.
Yeah.
No, that sounds good. You've obviously touched on it a bit there, kind of like idols and stuff like that as well. Kind of like when you're writing music, do you kind of pick from other people at all in any sort of respect, or have you now come to realise that you've got to make your own voice and your own kind of...
I think it's really important to like never to try and replicate somebody. You can be inspired, but say like, I feel like my second record, I really wanted it to be like somewhere in my head, like in between like the Supremes and Bikini Kill, like 60s girl groups and 90s Riot Girl, because they were my favourite things. I just listened to them only for like 2 years. That's all I listened to on tour. And then, you know, like I didn't want to try and write songs that sounded exactly like 60s songs, because it's a genre that's so covered and so done and so brilliant. Like, what's the point? There's nothing like, you know, there's a lot of bands at the moment actually doing a lot of like 60s girl group stuff, and it's like, it's good, but if I'm going to listen to 60s girl groups, I'm going to go and listen to like the Shirelles or the Supremes or the Ronettes. I'm not going to...
Not take a cheap copy or anything like that.
Yeah, because you can't there's no point. It's not genuine replicating something. So just put your own twist on it and do something that's like personal to you. That way music will just relate more and mean more to people if it's like honest and not just trying to copy something.
Sounds good. Talked about rating process there through, obviously, you know what I mean, taking bad points and then turning them into positives and stuff like that as well. Do you kind of feel that that's how you write now still, and that's kind of how you continue to write, or is your process kind of changed? Is it much more structured now?
I get urges, like I haven't written a song for about a year or 2 years, which is really weird. I mean, I'm in another band called The Receders. It's a punk band and I play bass, and I have been writing songs with them, which is good, but on my own, I haven't written a song for like 2 years, and because I've been so busy, haven't had time. And I think like when I'm like really on the road and like touring and promoting an album, like I'm not in the right creative mind space to just think, oh, I really want to write a song. I just like, I've got to do a gig, I've got to do work, I've got to do press, I've got to do this, I've got to do that, and blah, 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 blah.
Exactly, yeah.
And now I've come to the end of this touring and into this album campaign. I'm starting to get urges, and in soundcheck I'm writing like little riffs and stuff, and I'm thinking of song ideas in my head. I think it's just like that natural thing of like, I want to write a new record now. And before I didn't really have that urge. But you can control it, you can be in control of, because you can just force yourself, you know, like when I get home, I'm going to book some time in a rehearsal space so that I go there and it's like going to work.
Yeah.
And you, even if you just wait there all day waiting for something to come, or you just force yourself to write, it can be shit. Like, as long as you're doing it, you're exercising that creative like muscle.
Juices flowing. And
yeah.
No, that sounds good. That sounds good. You've touched on obviously the new album. Like, you've been touring the album and everything like that as well. So 2 points from that. Where's your favourite place to play and why? What's the favourite venue or favourite country or favourite city?
Edinburgh Cabaret Voltaire.
Oh,
I'm only joking.
Don't do that, please. Don't.
I'm only joking. I'm gonna have to say Brazil, Rio de Janeiro. I was really privileged to be able to go there this year, and it was just fucking amazing. Like, people were crazy and loving and really generous. But then I think there is something about like certain cultures have a more open nature. Like, well, for example, the Celtic thing. Like, if you do a gig in Scotland or Ireland, people are up for a good time and they'll be into it. And if you go to
there we go. That's because we're alcoholics.
But I think there's still like that attitude of like going out to have a good time. And like in Brazil and in Mexico I played, and like there's that same kind of like fire in people that are just like, I'm going out tonight because I want to have fun. And sometimes people can be quite reserved in, say, like, I mean, France, people are quite reserved. And, I mean, in England, at different places, like, people, I don't know, but Brazil, Rio de Janeiro, it was just like, I'm in Rio de Janeiro for starters. Like, I was like on top of a Sugarloaf mountain, and that statue of Christ, like, looking at it, like, what the fuck? The one that you see in movies. It's just massive. And then the next day I'm, like, playing a show in this really wicked venue. It's, like, half open, half closed, and just people just go mental for every song.
Sounds good.
So fun.
Sounds good. So you've been touring for the new album, promo, and all these sort of things like that. It seems to, just from my own like opinion, it seems to be like a more like a harsher album. Do you know what I mean? Not in a nasty sense, but like a kind of more tough sounding thing through that as well. Was that a change in style that was like because kind of thought of, or was it just where you were kind of lyrically, like musically or personally at that time? It kind of like a bit of a more harder outer crust with it as well, sort of thing. Yeah,
probably a mixture of both. Like after I toured my first record, I was really cynical and angry because of the industry, and it was a really hard time, like a really exciting time, but I went through a lot of different feelings because my life changed really drastically. You know, I just was on the road for like 2 years, and like I'd do a 5-week tour in America, have 4 days off, and then do like 2 weeks of festivals, 2 weeks in Germany, I just had no time off. And when I was having those 4 days off, I'd be like getting up to do press every day, and it makes
you annoying people like me then and stuff like that. Yeah.
Well, just, you know, like not having, you need a day off. Like everyone needs a Sunday, or one day we just literally have to get to see your boyfriend or your dogs or like your mum or whoever, your best mate, like. And also there's some horrible people in the industry, really horrible, like, that will suck you dry. And I met a lot of those. And I always say I've met the best people in the whole world in the music industry, and the worst. And like, that just gives you a hard outer shell that you're just like, fuck everybody.
Yeah.
And also I've been listening to a lot of the Riot Girl stuff and the Supremes, but they were, you know, so I think now I feel a lot more positive because I had more time with this record, you know, like I took it into my own hands, and I was like, I didn't set out to be like a celebrity or get a #1 record or like make, not pop music, because I like pop music, but like chart music. And so when my music was in the charts, it was really weird. And now it's kind of like I'm in a more comfortable place because I've like taken not creative control, but just like control of every aspect, like who I'm working with, where I'm going, when I'm doing it, when to say no, when to say yes. And it feels a lot more positive and fun, and I'm enjoying what I'm doing a lot more now, so that's
Sounds
cool.
good. So obviously, like, you know what I mean, we're talking about kind of getting out there. You didn't set out to make that music and stuff like that. You came up through the internet and stuff like that as well, obviously. So that's obviously a massive thing. Do you know what I mean? Like, there's so many artists that did it, and now it kind of seems to be like route one for a lot of bands now. It's, when it used to be gigging all the time, it's now like, get out there, get yourself on the internet, and that comes kind of second nature. Do you know what I mean? Was that what made you do that? You know what I mean? At the end of the day, because when you did it, it wasn't there. Do you know what I mean? Like, at the end of the day, was that your decision? You know what I mean? You kind of trendsetted to that spot, extent.
I mean, I was quite nervous about putting my music up there just because I was worried about what my friends would think, because I don't think a lot of people knew that I did music, because I'd been doing theatre. People thought of me as more of an actress. But MySpace was quite big at the time, you know, it was like the MySpace scene, you know, like that.
No, it's just dead.
Yeah, but it was dreadful, those like MySpace parties, people would come from all over to meet up and just be like cool and do fucking coke together, and I was just like, oh, this is gross. But MySpace music pages, I can't remember who had one, like one of my friends, I think, had a band page. I was like, oh, I'll make one of those, and I made it and I kept it secret for ages, and then I uploaded tracks while I broke my foot. I recorded them on GarageBand. And then I just put them up there. And I wanted to build up to before the show so people heard a bit of my music. And it just grew from there. There's this really embarrassing letter that I wrote to John Kennedy that I'm like... And he still got it. He read it out once, like at the beginning of my second record when we did an interview. And it was like, dear John Kennedy, I just wondered if you'd listen to some of my music. I sent him a demo. And it's like, I've already got like 700 friends on MySpace.
Quite cringeworthy sort of thing. Yeah, all right, fair enough, okay.
But I just wanted him to listen to my music, and John Kennedy's so cool. Like, I love him. And if you send him stuff, he's the first person that played Caroline's a Victim, and like he still has that demo and that letter, and that's like pretty amazing, you know, because he kept it even though at the time he didn't know who you were. Yeah.
That's good. It's touching that. It's good. Like, so what would you give advice to people? Do you know what I mean? Wanting to go down that route and stuff like that. How to stand out in that sort of respect.
Just be yourself. Don't be contrived. There's so much crap out there. If you do something that's genuine, then someone will be interested in it. Because I think that mainstream music is so drab and so soulless at the minute. It's really grotesque. Like, it's so bombastic, and everyone's like trying so hard to be the biggest pop star. Like, why? Like, just make good music. Write something that hasn't been written about 1,000 times before and that doesn't relate to ordinary life, you know. Stop singing about being a fucking pop star.
Fair enough.
Do you know what I mean? It's dull. Like, and write about your own experiences. Hang out with your friends. Get them to play with you. Put on nights together. It's a record label's job to find new talent. So if you go out and you do shows and you put put it online. I don't know what it's like, Bandcamp, SoundCloud, Twitter, Facebook. Get a following, because at the end of the day, if you have a following of people online, even if you don't get signed, you can get someone to help you make a record and get them to buy it. Like, you can exist without record labels, which obviously they do a lot of work. Like, my record label do a lot for me, but if I was an independent artist, and you can make a career these days, like, on your own. You don't need to wait for some big major to come and help you out.
Sounds good. One of our kind of like closing questions we kind of ask everyone. Obviously, you've toured for like years yourself, so we've got a trophy. Okay, right. This is how good this is. What's the most embarrassing or the most awful tour story that you've had from the last couple of years? This is a great point where you can drop someone else in it and embarrass someone that you tour with and work with and stuff.
Like something that somebody's done that's really
something that's done or something that's happened to you guys on the road that you've put down as one of those kind of like hilariously funny moments through that as well. God.
Tour jokes are so in-jokey though. They're so like terrible.
Or just something embarrassing that's happened to someone.
God. Shit, that's quite hard. I'm really crap at these kind of questions.
Sorry, I just thought I should have told you about it at the start. You're thinking about it. I always do, but I'm not on the camera, so.
Fuck. I can't think of like the worst thing.
There's a trophy. It's a cool trophy. Like that, just to put a little bit extra.
I know, it's an actual trophy.
There's a cool trophy that's going to be given out in the summer.
For like the most embarrassing.
The most embarrassing one, yeah.
Oh, I need more time. I need to ask Brett, like, see if he can think of one. What's happened to us? Like, what, people in the band or other bands that I've toured with? Or
anything. This is just something that's going to make you stand out that you can think of. I can leave it with you.
Yeah, leave it with me for a minute.
And that means you have to come and do busking for Japan when you're up for that, and you can give me that then, and that means you're still in the running for the.
Okay.